having me over here. This is my first demo at this market. And again, my name is Andreas. I'm from Revival in Decatur. If you're familiar with Decatur, we're right off Church Street. We have took over an old, it was an old house. So we've been there celebrating 1 year, July 18th. So we're really excited. So what I brought with me today was some ingredients to make a boiled dressing. I pretty much found out about boiled dressing a couple of years ago, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's something that a lot of people don't use anymore because what's available at the grocery store, like, already ready dressings, like blue cheese and ranch, and nowadays also we use a lot of olive oil, so we do a lot of vinaigrette-based salad dressings as well. But this was very popular back in the day, the 1800s and such, and when olive oil was not available and refrigeration was not available. So this dressing, if it is made correctly, and it can be jarred and it can be preserved. So again, if you decide to make this at home, you can definitely keep it in your refrigerator for about a week and a half or so, and you're good to go. And also, I feel kind of that as a home cook, I feel like a lot of people should have or could have a lot of these ingredients that go in this dressing. So it's not really something that you have to go out and purchase. If you do, it's probably maybe some mustard, ground mustard, something like that. And then what I love about this dressing, like Lauren said, it's versatile. You can put it on almost anything. You want to make some coleslaw, don't use mayonnaise, use this boiled dressing. It's absolutely fantastic. It's creamy, it's tangy, it has the richness, and again, you can add little things to it if you want to. If there's a special herb you really, really love, I love dill. My Swedish background, I was born and raised in Sweden, so anything dill to me is absolutely fantastic. Fresh basil, anything you want, just put it in there. But this is pretty much the base for it. So the word boiled dressing, you don't actually boil it. You more or less simmer it, or you can cook it in a double boiler. Double boiler is when we take a mixing bowl and have a pot of water, and there's no direct heat, okay? You are using flour and egg, so a lot of times that will, if you use really high heat, you will scorch the egg, you will scramble the egg, you can burn the flour. So if this, at home, if you want to use a double boiler, I would go ahead and do that. If not, this is an excellent way of doing it. So we're gonna start with the first few ingredients. We're gonna try our apple cider vinegar. And again, I'm going to use some measuring cups so I follow the recipe completely. If you've done this a few times, you don't necessarily have to follow the recipe. And again, I got my pan here a little bit warm. Everybody knows when you add vinegar to a hot pan, you get that steam and you get that nice facial. Just be careful. Don't breathe in. All right, so we got our vinegar. We're going to use our water here. Again, I'm going to adjust my heat a little bit because right now it's kind of boiling and reducing down a little bit, so I'm going to adjust that. We're going to add our flour. I use a little bit of all-purpose flour. If you decide I don't like flour in my diet, you can use some cornstarch. I'm using this just to kind of thicken, use it as a thickener, as a binder. So again, cornstarch can be used. You go to the grocery store, you see those flourless flours. It's all either corn flour, all different types of flours, but no gluten is involved there. We're going to add our little bit of sugar here. This is just to get it just a little bit sweet. We're going to use our dry mustard. Once we get all these ingredients together, again, we're just going to mix all this till it's nice and smooth. Cooking this on low heat. All right, combine this till it's nice and smooth. And you'll see that this flour will start to thicken up. This kind of what we're making here is the sauce. And I can show you guys, once I get this nice and smooth, it's starting to thicken up a little bit. And I still have a few lumps, so I want to make sure I kind of make this nice and smooth for us. Again, the word boiled dressing is kind of funny. When I first found out about it, I was like, it's boiled dressing, but you really don't boil it. Um, what I can compare this to is very similar to like a hollandaise sauce, um, texturally and consistency of the sauce. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead. I reduced a little. See, I reduced the sauce a little bit because it was boiling, so I'm gonna add just a little bit of water and a little bit more vinegar. And that's what a lot of times when I work in the kitchen, and again, Revival, by the way, we do traditional Southern food. So the owner, Kevin Gillespie, who's done a few demos over here, he grew up in the south part of Georgia, and he grew up with his grandmother's always cooking. His mom was cooking. So he grew up eating all this fantastic food that I did not grow up eating because I grew up in Sweden. So it was more cured fish and potatoes with lots and lots of dill. So I really fell in love with Southern food after culinary school, moved down to Alabama for a couple of years and learned how to cook with some wonderful ladies down there. And they showed me a whole new world of cooking. All right, so now we got this, essentially this flour kind of cooked out. We have more of a consistency of almost like a roux base. Now we're gonna go ahead and add our heavy cream. And Atlanta Fresh is fantastic. It has a really high fat content on this, so it tastes really good. Fat makes everything great. So again, I'm just adding this. Now, the flour, apple cider water, and dry mustard that I used to cook, add this cream to it. And now I want to kind of bring this back to a simmer because this is going to thicken this cream up. Again, I'm constantly stirring this. One thing I have not stopped doing is stirring this. Every time I tell my prep cooks, all right, we got to make boiled dressing, we make this in big batches, they always look down on the ground like, oh, because then they know they're going to get a workout for the day. A lot of times you'll see them go like this and they switch arms and they go back and forth because you're honestly constantly stirring this. What you don't want to happen is the flour, your cream, and once we get the egg in there, all that to sit in the bottom and essentially scramble and cook and burn. So we're constantly agitating this, constantly stirring it. Low heat, if you have a gas burner, you can control it a little better, but if you're home with electric like I have, you just put it on low heat. Kind of keep an eye on it, double check. All right, we're good. And this is kind of a labor of love, A lot of times when you cook, you want to take your time. I feel that a lot of things that you do quick, I don't feel like you don't appreciate it quite as much. Again, you decide this recipe probably yields quite a bit if you're cooking at home. At the restaurant, we would probably double this recipe and use it for the whole night. At home, you can probably make this recipe and you will be good to have a dinner for 6 people and then have a little extra for the weekend when you make the coleslaw for your barbecue. All right, you got a little steam coming off here, so the temp on this is really good. Starting to thicken up. I try to tilt this a little bit so you guys can see. I kind of want this just a little bit thicker, so I'm going to continue to cook. Huh? Oh, man, you got to. You got patience is a virtue, and my stepdad used to say that to me, and I used to be, what does that even mean? Like, I don't understand. English is my third, yeah. Patience we must all have. Yeah. There you go. But I definitely have more patience now that I'm a little bit older than I did when I was younger. So, but this is, you should also cook food that you enjoy cooking, If you enjoy going to the grocery store and picking out some already ready stuff, then do that and go home and enjoy that food. If you enjoy making everything from scratch, if you want to be in control of every single thing that goes into your food, then do that. If you want to use, we're using this cane sugar. You want to use brown sugar, go ahead and do that. You want to have your favorite type of starch, use it. If you want to use milk, not heavy cream, go ahead and use that. If you are lactose. Do not care for any type of dairy. Omit it. All right, so now we got this kind of thickened up here. Can you guys see this at all? A little bit. Nice and a little thicker. Huh? It's going to be thick. Yeah, exactly. It's going to be very thick. Yeah, absolutely. If you feel like you want to cook the eggs enough so that you have a texture, you can skip it. Again, when I first started researching this recipe, there was about 30 different varieties of this recipe, how different people do it. What I found out is right around the 1800s in the south of, like, southern part of America. Not the research that I can do. I do not know the particular state that it originated in. All right, I'm gonna turn this heat off for a little bit because now I'm gonna show you guys. I already cracked some of these eggs already. So in the recipe, it called for 8 eggs. So you just crack these in a bowl, and now we're gonna use a technique called tempering. If anybody here loves to prepare pastry items and a lot of desserts and stuff, you want to temper. We use that a lot in pastry. So when you take a warm liquid, add it to some eggs so you don't scramble your eggs. You want to do that in small quantities. So what I like to do is beat up my eggs just a little bit so nice and smooth. And then I can go. I don't think I did, no. Yeah, it's one of those things when you work an omelet station at brunch somewhere, you can scramble eggs, it just all comes with. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna pour a small amount of this liquid in here while I'm whisking. So these room temp or cold eggs, I want to get them kind of warmed up a little bit. That's why I'm adding a little bit at a time so I don't shock the eggs and cook them immediately so they're gonna scramble. What you're looking for is a smooth texture, and I know everybody here has probably had some scrambled eggs in their lifetime. Scrambled eggs aren't very smooth. All right. Take this back on the heat. Put my finger in here to kind of feel it. It feels great. I'm going to return this to the pan. I'm going to continue to stir. And I'm going to add, because I've done this before, I'm going to add just a splash more water, because I can tell just by looking at this, because I've done this while I need a little more liquid. So I'm going to use a little water and a little bit more apple cider vinegar. Now this is the fun part. This is when you continue to stir the whole time. Turn the heat back on. Again, we're using a very low heat, guys, because you don't want to make scrambled eggs. You're making this wonderful, delicious, tangy, creamy dressing. And this is when I see all my guys and all my girls on the line standing there, kind of moving back and forth, kind of leaning on the countertop, hanging out. There you go. They make those little can openers now that travel right around the rim. Maybe we can invent a little whisk that does that as well. But then you wouldn't have these sweet muscles, and you wouldn't have the workout for the day. All right. So today what I've decided to use for this boiled dressing was to make a nice little salad. At the restaurant, if you come to Revival, what I serve this boiled dressing with is a kale salad. Right now in season are peaches, some sweet onions, and we use some nice feta cheese. We use Decimal Place Farm. For peaches right now, I'm using Parsons peaches. I'm not sure if he's here or not. But they're absolutely delicious. They have several different varieties. And what I like to do in the different seasons, I love kale salad. I fell in love with it I think way before it became before everybody became kale crazy. Um, I just love that. Yeah, everybody's kale crazy. It's all about the kale. Um, so I like a hearty vegetable. A lot of times, I've done this dressing for if you guys like shrimp at all, you do like a boiled shrimp. You make a cocktail sauce, boiled dressing, a little bit of Heinz ketchup, and prepared horseradish, and you're good to go. So, again, if you love to cook at home, I highly recommend making this. If you don't like the recipe I gave you, Google search it, find a recipe you like. If you want to make this into something where you only use water, vinegar, and you temper in the eggs to it, then go ahead and do that if that's what you want to do. As long as as long as it's what you want, Um, so let's talk about some of these vegetables. Obviously, tomatoes are in full swing right now. And also, if you absolutely love tomatoes, I have a good feeling you're going to be at the Taco Killer Tomato Fest later on. Um, I will not be, although I love tomatoes. Um, I believe it's today. And does it go 2 days? No, it's only today, I believe. Yeah, I think it's today, yeah. Yeah. Our sister restaurant, my good friend and chef Joey's going to be over there with Gun Show. So, again, if you have not been to Revival, I highly encourage you going. Address is 129 Church Street, and it's Decatur. All right, look what just happened as I was standing here stirring. I can kind of pick this up. See how the consistency of this? It's almost like, I can tell you, it looks almost like hollandaise. Yeah. So it thickened up, so I went ahead and turned the heat off. Continue to stir. And the color is very nice. The texture on this is really good. You don't want it to be cement because you want to be able to kind of dress this on your greens, on your vegetables, and everything that you are preparing. So again, since we had all that cream and everything, why not add some butter? Because you know why? Butter makes it better. I don't care where you're from. My sous chef at Revival his name is Remy, and he is French. And he loves foie gras. He says, I will cook foie gras. And I'm like, well, Remy, right now you're cooking at a southern restaurant. And unfortunately, Grandma didn't eat a lot of foie gras. Yours may have, but in the South, if you grew up in the South, you probably did. No, I know Kevin's grandma probably didn't. So he's going to finish with a little bit of butter. This is going to give this sauce, this dressing, a nice, beautiful, shiny color. And of course, it's going to make it very, very delicious. Again, we're using local butter. And the quality of your butter does matter, guys. Quality of ingredients, I'm sure you hear it all the time. It does matter. You will get out what you put in. And everybody's taste buds are different. I'm not telling you have to go out there and buy the most expensive butter, the best butter you can. You just buy what you want. But personally, for me, it does make a huge difference. Okay, so we do have a vinegar in this, which is going to make this dressing nice and tangy. I love tangy, so I'm going to add a little bit of lemon juice to this dressing now that it's done cooking completely. What I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and just borrow this cutting board, set it over here. Again, we're going to have a few seeds in here. Pick those out, just kind of. And then we're going to add just a little bit of salt to balance the sweetness. Now you guys, when you cook at home or we cook at the restaurant, we always tell everybody you got to season, taste, and season and taste. If you go ahead and follow a recipe from start to finish and just add it, again, it could not be to your likings. It could be that the person who wrote this recipe or decided they really like a little extra salt. So it's always good. It's only a recommendation. If you go ahead and adjust seasoning to your taste. So again, just add a little salt to it. I'm gonna go ahead and just taste this. Say I'm gonna need a little more salt. And I'm gonna need a little more lemon. A lot more lemon. Yeah. Does anybody here can at home? You know, when you make preserves, can? Yeah? Awesome. Excellent. Delicious. Perfect. Nailed it. Second try. Nailed it. At home, if you were to put these in some mason jars on a wire rack, fill this dressing up there, let it cool at room temp, put the lid on it, you're good to go. You essentially preserved your boiled dressing. Everything in here is cooked, so whereas like a mayonnaise you make at home, you don't really cook the eggs, so you have a limited amount of time that you can keep it and use it. And that's the boiled dressing. What I like to do, add a little bit of cayenne, just a little kick of cayenne, but that's just me personally. So again, vegetables. Lauren just briefly talked about this avocado squash. They gave me two of the largest ones they had. If you go over to the wonderful farmers stand right over here, they have a little more, about a quarter size of these. And I tasted some. They are amazing. Lots of flavor, very creamy texture, almost like an avocado. And you can eat them with skin on and everything. Just go right ahead, just like a zucchini, a squash. They do have, the larger ones tend to have a little bit of a hollow center. The smaller ones that I looked at, you can just slice. You can put them on the grill, brush them with some oil, a little salt and pepper. You want to add some of this boiled dressing to them when they're done. Wonderful. Obviously, I'm using some tomatoes. Heirloom varieties, and there are a tremendous amount of these out there right now. Again, if you are into canning, preserving, get some great tomatoes, make a little tomato jam, can them, preserve them so you have some for the winter. We're also using some sweet onion. I love onions. When I was younger, I hated onions. If there was onions in my food, I would push it to the side and tell my mom I don't like onions. Absolutely love them. Things happen when you get older. I don't know what happens. Now I love everything. We're using some sweet onions. So you can use a little bit of green onions. Red onions are absolutely delicious. We top this with a little bit of feta cheese. We're using Decimal Place Farm. A lot of different cheesemakers are around this area. But again, having local fresh cheese is fantastic. You can't get it any better if it's just made a couple of days ago. Mary from Decimal Place, I've been to her farm. It is so awesome. All her little goats run around. We did a little photo shoot with Lauren for the farmers calendar. They decided to fill up what was a bathtub, I guess, where all the little goats would go drink their water, then drained all the water out, filled it with fresh water is what they told me, and told me to go ahead and sit in there so they could take pictures with me and the farmers. That was quite an adventure. I guess they wanted to, the farmers were rescuing me from being, very, very authentic. That was a good time. So if you have time, go check out some of these farms that are here today. I think they will invite you with open arms. It's always nice to do a little field trip one day. I'd like to bring on a day off. Again, Revival's closed on Monday, so we'll take little field trips with anybody of the staff who wants to go. And we just kind of educate ourselves about what the farmers and everybody's doing out there. Yeah. So what do you guys think? Was that okay? It's pretty good? Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when you preserve something, you essentially, with the preserving part, let's talk about that. You're essentially leaving out all oxygen out of the container. You're sealing it, a tight seal. So there's no way for oxygen and bacteria to get into the container that you are using. And that means you kind of have to keep it sealed up in a dark, cool place. So no sunshine or anything gets to it, so it adjusts the temperature of it. If you can keep this in an open container, like, for example, a little quart deli, or if you have some Tupperware at home, and you use it on a regular basis, when you're taking it out of the fridge, taking a spoonful out, making a little salad or some coleslaw or whatnot, closing the lid back up and in the refrigerator, then I would recommend you can use it probably for about a week to 9 days or something like that. Again, everything I do, I always label in the restaurant everything the day I make it, so that I know and everybody else knows, like, when did I make this? I'm not 100% sure. So that way I know, oh, I made this on this day. And then I just keep tasting it. Give everything a little quick taste. And if it's still wonderful, then go ahead and use it up. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, guys. Thank you all so much. Thank you, guys. Excellent. If you guys have any questions or anything else, please feel free you can ask away. I'm going to be here for a little bit, enjoy the farmer's market, and see if I can't pick up something for the house. So, thank you all so much.